Imagine if you could discover a secret that could completely change your life. I'm not talking about something fleeting, like making money or solving a temporary problem. I'm talking about a profound change, a wisdom that brings clarity to make decisions, overcome challenges, and find peace in even the most difficult situations. Have you ever thought about why some people seem to find strength and direction, while others remain stuck in cycles of confusion and suffering? How do some people find answers where others see only problems? The truth is that there is a source of transforming wisdom, and this wisdom comes from God. But are you hearing the right voice? Are you looking in the right place? In this video, I'm going to show you how divine wisdom can transform the way you live, think, and feel. We'll talk about the challenges you face, the decisions you need to make, and how God can open your eyes to see solutions where before you only saw obstacles. Stay with me until the end, because what you're about to hear could be the answer you've been looking for. If you want to discover how God can change your life from the inside out, now is the time. When faced with a problem, how many times have you looked for external solutions? Have you sought advice from friends, looked for answers in books and videos, or even tried to find relief in the distractions of the world? But in the end, the emptiness remained and the burden you were carrying only seemed to increase. This is because many people are still looking for answers in the wrong place. They run after shortcuts, hoping that something external will save them, when true transformation needs to happen from the inside out. As I have walked among the people, I have seen this many times. Tired, anguished men and women trying to cling to some promise of a quick fix. I saw religious leaders offering rules and judgments. I saw others preaching fear and guilt. But what I taught was simple. The kingdom of heaven is within you. This means that the answers you are looking for are not in the world outside. They are in your heart, in your direct connection with the divine. That's where God's wisdom begins to work. But this wisdom doesn't cry out. It doesn't force its presence. It whispers, quietly, waiting for you to quiet the agitation of the mind in order to listen. And this inner stillness is something that the modern world is afraid of. Today, it is all about speed, efficiency, and immediate results. But have you ever stopped to think that maybe it is this very haste that is keeping you from the answers you are so desperately seeking? God doesn't compete with the noise of the world. His voice can be heard in the stillness of your soul. Think about it. How many decisions have you made based on fear, pressure, or the opinion of others? And how many of those decisions have brought true peace to your heart? When divine wisdom guides your steps, decisions are no longer heavy. They flow, bringing clarity and ease. But to access this wisdom, you must change the direction of your search. You must stop looking outward and start looking inward. Maybe right now you're thinking, but how do I know I'm hearing God's voice and not my own thoughts? That's a legitimate question, and I'm going to show you how to recognize that voice. Because when you learn to listen to the wisdom that comes from above, you discover something powerful. Challenges don't go away, but the way you face them changes completely. Everyone faces challenges. No one goes through life without facing difficult moments, illness, loss, conflict, uncertainty. But why do some people seem to come through these situations with such serenity, while others crumble in the face of the same difficulties? The difference lies in how each person accesses the wisdom God offers. When you rely solely on your own strength, the challenges seem unbearable. The mind begins to create scenarios of fear, anxiety, and despair. The solutions that emerge are impulsive reactions, often fueled by the ego, the fear of losing, the need to control, or the worry about what others will think. But when you place these situations in God's hands, something extraordinary happens. Divine wisdom not only brings answers, it transforms the way you see the problem. I remember how many times I've been approached by people in despair, desperate because they don't see a way out. I have seen mothers worried about their children, sick people seeking healing, and men tormented by guilt and past mistakes. And the answer I gave them was the same. Don't carry the burden alone. Trust the Father, for He has already prepared the way for you. But this trust is not passive. It's not about expecting everything to happen without effort. God's true wisdom brings clarity and strength to act, but from a place of peace, not despair. For example, when I faced the religious leaders who accused me, I didn't react with hatred or fear. I knew that the way was marked out by the Father, and even in the face of injustice, I kept my peace. This same wisdom is available to you today. It shows you that many of the situations you fear already have a solution, and that the biggest problem is not what is happening around you, but how you deal with it. Maybe you're in a situation that seems hopeless. What if I told you that there is a way out that you haven't seen yet? Divine wisdom opens doors that seemed closed and brings light where there was only darkness. But for that to happen, you have to take an important step. Stop reacting impulsively and start acting with purpose and calm. Have you ever noticed how easy it is to react automatically in certain situations? Someone criticizes you, and before you think about it, you've already returned the insult. A problem arises and fear takes over, causing you to make hasty decisions. These impulsive reactions are reflections of the ego, which is constantly trying to protect you from what it perceives as a threat. But the ego acts out of fear, while God's wisdom acts out of love and trust. When you react, you're not making a conscious choice. You're just repeating old patterns. Think about how many times you've regretted something you said or did in the heat of the moment. Words thrown around without thinking create wounds that often take a long time to heal. But there is an alternative. Act from God's wisdom, not the emotion of the moment. This means pausing, taking a breath, and seeking God's guidance before you act. God's wisdom is not impulsive. It is patient and brings clarity. When you learn to silence the voice of the ego, which wants to control, judge, and react, you begin to see that many situations that seem difficult are actually opportunities for growth. Conflict can lead to reconciliation. Criticism can be an opportunity to learn. But to do that, you have to make a conscious choice. Stop reacting and start acting with purpose. I remember being unjustly accused by those who wanted to condemn me. Instead of reacting with anger or fear, I chose silence and serenity. I knew that my worth did not depend on outside opinions, but on my relationship with the Father. And the same wisdom is available to you. Before you act, ask yourself, am I reacting out of fear, pride, or selfishness? Or am I acting according to the peace that God brings to my heart? When you allow divine wisdom to guide your decisions, you realize that you don't have to have all the answers right away. Often silence is the best course. Other times, the right answer comes when you allow yourself to listen to what the Father has to say. And it is in that space of trust that you begin to hear something precious, God's voice, even in the midst of chaos. Have you ever felt that your mind is so full of worry that it seems impossible to hear anything but your own thoughts? Anxiety, fear, and the hustle and bustle of everyday life create a constant noise within us. It's like being in the middle of a storm, where everything around you seems agitated and confused. And in this chaos, you ask yourself, how can I hear God's voice? The answer lies in what I've always taught. God speaks to the heart that is at peace, but that peace doesn't come from outside. It comes from within. It's not the absence of problems, but a state of trust. God's voice doesn't compete with the noise of the world. It doesn't shout. It whispers quietly, waiting for you to be ready to listen. And to do that, you must learn to quiet your mind, calm your heart, and make room for this divine wisdom. When I spent 6 weeks in the desert, I was confronted with inner chaos. Thoughts of doubt, fear, and temptation arose constantly. But in the midst of this physical silence, I learned that true silence is not around us, but within us. It's when you silence the voices of doubt and fear that you can hear the only voice that matters, the voice of the Father who never leaves you. Today, the world is constantly distracting you. There's alarming news, demands, comparisons. You feel pressured to be perfect, to take care of everything, to look for immediate solutions. But God doesn't work in a hurry. His wisdom comes when you slow down, when you choose to stop and just trust. And it is in that quiet space that the answers begin to emerge. Not as an external voice, but as an inner certainty, a peace that shows you the next step. Perhaps you're expecting to hear something extraordinary, as if God is speaking to you audibly. But the truth is that He manifests Himself in simple and practical ways. Sometimes it's in the stillness that comes after a sincere prayer. Other times it's a thought that brings clarity, or an opportunity that comes at just the right time. The important thing is to be alert and ready to receive these messages. For when you hear that voice, something wonderful happens. Even pain can be transformed into strength. Pain is inevitable. Everyone faces loss, rejection, failure, or situations that seem unfair. But there is a secret that few understand. Pain, when placed in God's hands, can become your greatest source of strength and growth. What once seemed unbearable can be the soil from which wisdom, courage, and purpose are born. As I walked among you, I saw many suffering, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. I saw men broken by guilt, women crushed by the weight of tradition, families torn apart by conflict and judgment. But one thing struck me. Those who entrusted their pain to the Father found not only relief, but new strength to face life. The world often teaches that suffering is a punishment, a penalty for mistakes made. But I tell you, there is no punishment from God. The pain you feel is not a condemnation, but an opportunity to awaken something greater within you. Every difficult experience brings a lesson. It challenges you to leave behind what is superfluous and seek what is eternal. When you allow divine wisdom to guide this process, pain becomes learning, and learning becomes wisdom. Imagine a tree facing a storm. The strong winds may knock down its branches, but they also cause its roots to grow deeper into the ground. In the same way, the difficult moments in your life have the potential to make you stronger, more resilient, more connected to the divine essence that dwells within you. But for this to happen, you must change the way you look at suffering. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What is God showing me through this?" When you ask this question, the weight of the pain begins to lift, for you understand that you are not alone. God is with you every step of the way, providing strength and wisdom. And when you surrender your suffering to the Father, He shows you that even the most difficult experiences can be used for your good. And then a beautiful thing happens. You discover that faith, when used wisely, brings not only relief, but practical action to transform your reality. Having faith is important, but faith alone is not enough to transform your life. Many people say they believe in God, that they trust in divine power, but they get stuck in the same problems, face the same challenges, and make the same mistakes. Why is this? Because faith must be accompanied by conscious action. We must apply God's wisdom in our daily decisions, in our relationships, in the way we live. When I talked about the kingdom of heaven, I wasn't talking about some distant place reserved for after death. I was showing that this kingdom is accessible now to those who live according to divine principles. But it requires more than belief. It requires living according to that truth. And living wisely means translating your faith into concrete gestures, in the words you say, the choices you make, and the way you treat the people around you. Imagine a farmer who believes in the harvest, but never plants the seed. He may have all the faith in the world that the land is fertile, but if he doesn't act, he'll never see any fruit. In the same way, you can believe that God has the power to transform your life, but if you don't apply the wisdom He offers, that transformation will never happen. God's wisdom is not a magical miracle that solves everything for you. It is a guideline that must be lived. For example, look at the teachings I shared when I was among you. I didn't just talk about love, I lived love. I didn't just preach forgiveness, I practiced forgiveness, even in the face of rejection and injustice. That is what I want you to understand. True faith is active. It manifests itself in your daily attitudes, in the little choices that taken together shape your destiny. Often people pray for change, but continue to act the same way. They ask for peace, but harbor thoughts of anger. They ask for prosperity, but live in spiritual scarcity. They ask for guidance, but are unwilling to listen. Faith that transforms is faith that leads you to change from within, allowing God's wisdom to guide your every step. That's when you begin to see that the solutions you're looking for are not far away. They're in the way you choose to live each day. How often have you faced a situation that seemed hopeless? Life brings challenges that seem too big to solve. Financial losses, family conflicts, health problems. At such times, the mind creates a maze of doubt and fear, convincing you that there is no solution. But what I want to share with you today is simple and powerful. God sees paths where you see obstacles. Divine wisdom is not limited by human circumstances. Where you see limitations, God sees possibilities. Where you see pain, God sees transformation. Where you see scarcity, He sees abundance. But to realize these solutions, you must change the way you look at your challenges. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" Ask, "What does God want me to learn from this?" Because it is in that learning that the solution begins to reveal itself. I remember a time when a desperate man came to me. He had lost everything: his home, his livelihood. His family was starving. In desperation, he asked me, "Why did God let this happen?" I looked at him and said, "God hasn't abandoned you. You are focusing on what you have lost, but you don't see what you can still build. Trust and act on the wisdom He gives you, and the way will be opened." And so it did. When he stopped looking only at the pain and started looking for divine guidance, new opportunities arose. He rebuilt his life, this time with purpose and faith. Often the solutions are within your reach, but you're stuck in the problem and can't see them. This happens because the ego creates mental barriers. It tells you that there's no way out, that you're not capable, that all is lost. But God doesn't work with those limitations. He offers creative, unexpected solutions that arise when you open yourself to His wisdom. Sometimes these answers come in simple ways: an unexpected encounter, an idea that suddenly comes to you, or even a change of perspective that makes you see the situation from a different angle. The truth is that problems are often opportunities in disguise. When you stop fighting the situation and start trusting God, you realize that challenges can be stepping stones to greater growth. And as the light of divine wisdom illuminates your path, everything begins to make sense. Even losses become gains. And then you discover something essential. It's not about having control, it's about learning to let go and let God guide. The desire to control is one of the greatest causes of human suffering. How many times have you tried to predict every detail of your future, to make sure everything goes according to plan, only to find that life has taken a completely different turn? This obsession with control creates fear, anxiety, and frustration. But what many people don't understand is that God cannot be fully involved in your life if you insist on controlling everything. Letting God lead is not about giving up or crossing your arms. On the contrary, it's about trusting that the Father sees beyond what you can see. Often you want the solution to appear in a certain way, but God works in ways that are beyond human understanding. And to receive this divine guidance, you must let go of the reins and make room for Him to act. When you let go of control, the impossible becomes possible. I remember a young man who came to me with a heavy burden. He had made grandiose plans, but nothing was happening as he had hoped. "Why is everything going wrong?" he asked in despair. I said, "You are trying to control what you cannot control. The Father has already prepared the way, but you are so fixated on your own route that you can't see the direction He is showing you. Trust and the right path will be revealed." This is one of the greatest lessons that the modern world needs to relearn. Today, people try to control even the weather, to predict what will happen tomorrow, to control every little aspect of life. But the truth is that absolute control is an illusion. God has not called us to live in the rigidity of fear, but in the flexibility of trust. When you let go of control, you find that many things that once seemed chaotic begin to fall into place naturally. Letting go of control doesn't mean giving up responsibility. It means recognizing that there are limits to what you can do alone. When you put your worries in God's hands, He opens doors you never imagined. This surrender brings peace because you no longer carry the weight of the world alone. And it is in this state of trust that you begin to realize something incredible. God's wisdom is already within you, waiting to be accessed. Have you ever noticed how people often spend their entire lives looking for answers from outside sources? They look to books, advice, experts, religions. All of these can help. But the truth I want to share with you is simple and transformative. The divine wisdom you so desperately seek is not out there. It's within you, in your heart. When I walked among you, many were surprised that I didn't carry scrolls or quotes from great scholars. I was speaking from a living connection with the Father, and that same connection is available to you today. God is not far away or hidden behind complicated rituals or difficult rules. What you need is to learn to silence outer distractions and listen to the voice that speaks directly to your soul. The problem is that the world teaches you to mistrust this inner wisdom. From an early age, you have been conditioned to believe that the answers come from the outside, from authorities, rules, and traditions. But I tell you, the deepest truth is engraved in your spirit, and it is what I've called the kingdom of heaven within everyone. When you allow yourself to hear this voice, it brings clarity and peace even in the most challenging situations. Think of a time when you had to make a difficult decision. You probably heard opinions from different people, but deep down there was an inner feeling that showed you the right way to go. That's the voice of God. It's not a thought of fear or doubt, but a serene certainty, a peace that guides you. The challenge is to recognize this voice in the midst of so many others that try to influence you. You don't need complicated formulas to access this wisdom. All you need to do is make room for this divine connection. When you first seek the Father in everything you do, wisdom begins to reveal itself naturally. And it is this wisdom that brings practical answers to everyday problems, showing that true transformation begins within and affects everything around you. Many people believe that in order to change their lives, something external has to happen. A new job, more money, the perfect relationship. But what I've always taught is that true transformation doesn't come from the outside. It comes from within. When your heart is guided by divine wisdom, everything around you begins to change. And this change doesn't happen by magic. It happens because when you change inside, the way you see and react to the world changes. Imagine a tree. If its roots are healthy, it will flourish naturally, even in the face of storms. But if the roots are weak, no amount of rain will be enough to sustain it. When your roots, your thoughts, emotions, and beliefs are aligned with God's wisdom, you become strong and resilient, regardless of external circumstances. Consider the people around you. How often have you seen someone try to change the behavior of others, believing that this will solve their problems? How many relationships fail because each party insists that the other must change? But the truth is that change begins within you. As you transform yourself, your attitudes change, your words become kinder, and the environment around you begins to reflect this new energy. When I taught about loving others, it wasn't just to create harmony between people. It was because love is the key to this inner transformation. What you give to the world comes back to you. If you offer criticism, you get resistance. When you offer understanding, you receive openness. When you act with love, patience, and wisdom, you begin to notice that previously difficult situations become easier and people around you react differently. The great revelation is that when you allow God to transform your inner self, you become a light for others. This light doesn't require speeches or grand gestures. It is perceived in your gaze, in your attitude, in your serene silence in the face of a difficult situation. And it is this light that begins to inspire those around you to seek transformation as well. For the world changes when you change, and it all begins when you allow yourself to be guided by divine wisdom. The transformation you seek is not far away. It already lives within you. All God needs is for you to trust, to make room, and to allow His wisdom to guide your steps. It's not a sudden miracle that comes from the outside. It's an inner awakening that changes everything around you. The challenges you face are simply invitations to look beyond. The answers you seek are where they've always been, in the stillness of your heart, where God dwells. When you listen to that voice and act on that wisdom, pain is transformed into strength, chaos into clarity, and fear into peace. The world can be loud, confusing, and full of uncertainty. But remember, the light that guides your path does not go out in the face of storms. God is with you every step of the way. And when you allow Him to guide you, you don't just find the way, you become the way for those who are lost. May your life be a reflection of this wisdom. May you live with love, walk with faith, and inspire others to do the same. And never forget, the kingdom of heaven is not far away. It is within you.